If you want better sounding vocals and better sounding songs, you need better practices. But there's so much information and there's so many parts of the process. So let's simplify things and talk about 5 things you can do to bring your recorded vocals to the next level. What's up, guys? My name is Kianci. I am a singer, songwriter, and vocal producer, and I've spent tons of hours making terrible mistakes so that hopefully you don't have to. Let's see if we can help you fast track to being your absolute best artist self. This may seem obvious to a lot of people, but to other artists it might not. So I'm gonna say it. It's really important. Get off book. Get off book. If someone invited you to perform your new songs that you're in the studio recording right now at some show or some event, I guarantee you not getting on stage with sheet music and lyric sheets, because they'd be distracting, they'd get in the way, they're hard to follow along with, and it probably wouldn't be the look or the vibe that you're going for. It's just a mess. You'd be up there, you'd know your songs. So know your songs now. Do not bring your phone and be reading off your phone at the microphone. I guarantee you will see an increase in your performance. You don't have to take my word for it, but it's just science. You're asking your brain to read something and turn visual input into speech, and then to match it up with your melodies and your rhythms and your cadences and your emotion, and it's cognitive chaos. And I guarantee you can't focus on getting your best expression, your best tone, your best breath, your best anything if you're busy trying to read your lyrics off your phone. So skip it. Okay. Tip number 2, and not everyone's going to agree with this, but I would swear by it. Record full takes before you start punching and comping. Record the full take of the full section before you start punching and comping. Imagine it's the beginning of your session. You're just starting to record. This is a song you haven't recorded before. You're working on the first verse, for example, right? I know you want ultimately the perfect take, and that might be a comp of multiple different pieces. But before we get into being nitpicky and too precise about everything, give yourself a moment to warm up. Do a few run-throughs. Feel it out, feel yourself out. Where are you? What are you feeling? These are going to be, most likely, some of the most authentic and natural takes you're going to get of that section throughout the session. And that's valuable. Some of the stuff in there might be worth keeping. Some of it might not be worth keeping. But at the very least, you're allowing yourself to actually identify those trouble and struggle points so that you can go back and fix those. But let's not just assume we're incapable before we give it a try. I really do honestly, personally believe that most of the time, unless it's a stylistic choice, we're getting the best performance when we can flow through the whole section with as much accuracy as possible, and we're minimizing the need or the relying on punching and comping. Let's not use them as a crutch when we don't have to. Let's give ourselves a chance to shine. Let's give ourselves a chance to be great. I believe in you. Give it a try. That brings us directly to tip number 3. Punches and comps are your best friends. They're great. Do not underestimate the power of an engineer and a few good takes, okay? This is where the magic happens. Maybe you can use something from that first or those first few takes that felt really natural. Let's say you find a tone quality in there that you really love. Do your best to match it. See what comes out of that. Maybe you have 3 or 4 takes that are each really strong in a different section. It also gives you the leverage to kind of decide which approach is feeling the best for you, because each take is going to have just a slight nuance that's a little bit different from the last. So this kind of allows you to narrow down which little nuances, which little adds, which little embellishments you're feeling. There's nothing wrong with taking a few great takes and putting them together to make the mega perfect ultra beast of a take. Big fan of this. It's happening every day in every studio in America and probably across the globe. There's no shame in that game. Now let's talk about background vocals. Well, how long do you have? Today, let's keep it simple. We will do a deep dive on this in another video, but please, 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 unless it's a deliberate stylistic choice, your background vocals are not here to make up for the faults in your main vocal, okay? Spend that time, get that main vocal solid. I like to get the main tracked out for the entire track. Before I come back in my brain, it kind of creates this like angst to get to that part. I keep being like, I hear that needs to be there. And it helps me make more deliberate choices about what background vocals I want to add. Background vocals are here to support, okay? They're here to create an ambiance. They're here to create depth. They're here to add dynamic. They're here to amplify emotion. They do all of those things when we make smart choices. Sometimes less is more. Oftentimes less is more. Sometimes everything is everything, and you just gotta do like a bunch of stuff, and that does happen. Sections where we want these big swells. The feeling of synthesizing a group of voices together, obviously we're gonna throw a crap ton of takes together to make that happen. The most important thing I want to impress on today in terms of improving vocal performance in our recorded songs is let's not get lazy. It's not a time to sit back and kick it and relax and just like sing anything, and we're not worried about if it's, if the notes are right anymore. Is there any feeling in it? And we're like we're whispering it because for some reason we always do that. We sing background vocals quieter. You don't have to do that. The tone that we're using and the emotion and the personality and the voicing that we're using to perform these background vocals, they should match the context of what it is that you're trying to do and of what's happening in the song. Another thing is timing. I guarantee you, I promise, because I'm lazy about it when I demo stuff all the time, and that's why I'm saying how important it is. You will notice the difference when you really take the time to fine-tune the timing, the attack, and the emotion of your background vocals. If you are planning to pan left and right and you want to have two of the same vocal, take the time to make sure they match at center before we pull and spread them. It will make a difference. Last tip, number 5, last but not least, let's build our vocals to create dynamic. Oftentimes we fly over the hook or the pre-hook, and we're like, oh, we get the point. We can just fly that section over and we'll repeat it exactly as it was before. Sometimes that works. Sometimes that's okay. Sometimes that's effective even. Sometimes it's very intentional to do that. On the other hand, let's bear in mind that when a repeated section comes back in the song, we can sing it again. And when we sing it again, what we do is we put emphasis on the build of the emotion, build of the narrative, the build of the story. Where are we at in the song now? Where are we at in the storyline now? And let's do what we can to bring that emotion and that approach to this repetition of that part that we already heard. Now, sometimes the part that we already heard, the most important thing about it is that it's really, really effing catchy and it feels really effing good, and you might have just hit it just right the first time, and we're not worried about conveying some like elevated emotional thing or some story. If that's the case, great, let's fly it over, no problem. But when we fly those things over, I'm still usually recommending that we throw something else in the mix the second time around. So if we're not going to change the main vocal, it's a great idea to think about finding one little add we can put in there, one other background vocal, one other harmony note, one other run, one other fill, whatever it might be, just something to kind of amp up the energy the second time we're coming around to this thing that we already heard. It's familiar, but now it just feels even more grand, and we can celebrate it even more. Feels even more good than it felt the first time. Song should have an ebb and a flow to it, and it's either building all the way up, or it's building and it's breaking down, and it's building and it's breaking down. But let's keep in mind what it is we're trying to do as far as dynamics in that sense, and adding vocals to even those repeated sections, or retracking vocals to those repetition sections to really make the most impact in the song. Simple, easy, painless. Those are 5 easy things that you can do as the artist, as the vocalist, as any type of vocalist on a microphone. These are things that you can do to amplify your songs, to amplify your vocal performance, to take your vocal performance to the next level, to start making these kind of just songs that just feel like you're droning on, and we can give them more life. We can give them more energy. Try these things out. Let me know if they work. In the comment section, let me know if any of this is effective or helpful to you. Let me know what we can deep dive into further. If you find this video helpful, please tap that like button and subscribe, because there's going to be more videos helping us fast track to success. We're fast tracking to success here. All right, enough of that. Go get to recording. As always, love to love ya, and happy writing.